Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I'm here again with Spellbinders, and we're going to create two projects using the Fun Stamper's Journey stamp set Kit of the Month for July 2019. And as always, this is just one of the many kits of the month that Spellbinders has available, and a link will be down below so that you can see all of what they offer. So let's get started and jump right in. So the stamp set that I'm using, this is called Age of Aquarium. And then at the end of this video, I'm actually going to show, also show, there's a die that can go with this that is pretty cute. So, to start off, I grabbed one of my nesting circle dies, and I drew a circle, of course, around that. It's perfect template. And I pulled out some distress oxides. I pulled out my antique linen, vintage photo, faded jeans, salty ocean, and tumbled glass. So for this one, on the bottom half of the circle, I started out with my antique linen, and now I'm coming in with the vintage photo, but kind of working that on the side, and I'm using my makeup brushes to do that. So just wanting to get a sandy effect. I've put some of the vintage photo down on my mat, added some water, and I'm going to splatter some of that darker brown across that image as well. So just to give like a sand or the bottom of the ocean type of look, if that makes sense. So for the other circle that I drew, I'm going to start out with tumbled glass, and of course I'm going to make this look like the ocean. So I'm starting out light, and I'm going to continue to add the darker shades. So again, I'm going to start out with the tumbled glass, and then I'm going to move into the salty ocean, and then I'm going to finally move into the faded jeans. When I clean my makeup brushes, I just take them across a damp baby wipe, and then I rub them on a microfiber cloth just to get that dampness off the bristles. I've never had any colors transfer by me doing that. And I've been asked this question a lot. I do have a set for my inks, and then I have another set for my distress oxides or pigment inks. So now I'm going to come in with the faded jeans, and just to get a darker shade. Now you can tell I'm not looking for a perfect blend here. I'm okay that it's a little bit splotchy. I'm okay that it looks streaky. Again, you're looking underneath the ocean. It's usually not a perfect blend. Unless you're in Aruba, I guess. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay, back to the card. I'm going to make sure that's dry. I did spritz it with my distress sprayer just to get some bubble effects going on there. I'm going to clean off my mat. And what I'm going to do now is actually cut these circles out using the same circle that I used to draw my circle. If that makes sense. So once they're cut, I'm going to grab my pencil, and I want I want two layers coming from the bottom. So I just drew a line. I'm going to cut that out, and now I'm going to cut along the other line. Now, if you can still see my pencils, you are able to erase them, as I'm doing right here with my white eraser. I wanted to have some dimension. So the first piece, the background, the one at the top, that's going to be laid flat. I'm just going to mark the area so that I know where to set that, and then I'll prop up the second piece with my double-sided foam squares. I will use my liquid adhesive to set that in place. I do like the liquid adhesive, is really my first choice when I'm doing paper crafts. I just think you get an absolute better bond immediately. I've just added a little bit of the vintage photo to the edge just to define that piece, and I propped that up using my double-sided foam squares. So now we have basically the focal point of our card. So now we're going to do some stamping. So all of these stamps are red rubber, which always give you a wonderful impression. I am a fan of red rubber. You can never go wrong with the impression that you get. They're more forgiving. Don't get me wrong, love my clear stamps too. But red rubber just gives you that exact. I pulled out my Desiree K inks, and I'm going to be using Peach Bellini, Jelly Bean Green, Tangerine Twist, Blue Lagoon, Moonlit Fog, and Fresh Asparagus. And I'm just going to stamp my images on this piece of cardstock that I've pulled. So I'm pulled out the coral, the seaweed. I'm going to pull out a couple of the fishes. Now that fish, after I stamped it, I just thought it was a little bit too, very bright. So you always have many shades within your ink pads. So I'm going to do a second generation stamp for each of the 2 fish that are in this set. I also liked, while I had the seaweed stamped, I also did like the other 2 pieces of, we'll call it greenery. So I'm going to use a darker green, which is the fresh asparagus, and I'm going to stamp on top of the seaweed. So just to give it a little bit more dimension, using a darker color and so forth. So even though it's not a layering stamp, you can make it one. You know, it's not going to be perfect, but it will definitely look like, or just give it a little bit of a difference. These are what the stamps look like. I always do, when it comes to rubber stamps, I usually stamp them on a piece of cardstock just so I can see what the image will look like, and I do store them with my stamps. So for each of the pieces, I did fussy cut them out, and I'm going to go around using my Vintage Photo ink. Yes, this is a favorite of mine. My Vintage Photo 9 out of 10 does usually come into play. I do like the way that it looks, and it works with any color. I use the Vintage Photo ink just to make an image pop, give it a frame so that it doesn't go into the background, so to speak. I'm going to prop some of the images up using some double-sided foam squares, or I'm going to use my liquid adhesive, and I'm just going to build my scene within this circle. For some of the pieces that I want to go down into that other hill, I will trim them just so that they fit better. So again, layering, putting some behind, putting some in front, whatever your eye will let you know. So once that's together, this card is going to be on a standard A2 size card base, so that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it is a top folding card base. So that is going to sit in somewhat of the center of the card base, and I'm going to put this directly on there. I will use a piece of fun foam to cut down, but before I place that, I want to make sure that I set my sentiment in place. I'm going to be using my Altenew Obsidian Black ink, and I'm just going to, with the image in position, I'm going to stamp that down on the left-hand side, and it says keep swimming. I'm going to use the die, one of my nesting dies, to cut out my piece of fun foam. It just gives me an idea of what size it should be, because if I just took it upon my eye, I would end up with a piece too small. It just happens. So I'm just going to cut around that, and then I'm going to use my liquid adhesive to set that in place, both onto the focal point and down onto the card base. Just to add some more details, I'm going to use my droplets from Pretty Pink Posh, and I'm going to set those throughout this image. And I'm just going to put some dabs of glue, and then I'm going to use my wax pencil and set these in place. Now you can see the glue right now, but the glue does dry and it will dry clear, so the image, the colors that they're sitting on will come up. And what's great is, since your liquid glue has moisture in it, it's actually going to pick up the color as well with the oxide. So that is the stamp set. That is what will come in your stamp set of the month. Now, if you're interested, there is also a die, and it's called the Aquarium box die. Now, this can be used for anything. So this die actually creates, it's like a shadow box, but it works perfectly with this stamp set because you can make like an aquarium that sits in there. So I just wanted to show how this goes together. So you saw the pieces that we had, and I've cut them all out. So from the main piece, you want to make sure that you've cut 2, and then from the strips, you want to make sure that you have 1 each. All right, and then there's a square. So I always like to, my idea was, see where that blue is, that background, I do cut that out so that I can work on that. So it's like my platform. So I pulled in, because of course I chose black, yes. So I pulled in a white piece of paper so you can see that. So you can see all the pieces that I've cut. So on one of the main dies, you want to use that rectangle to cut out the center. This way, you're creating the box. You have the opening so that you can see into it. As I said, the blue piece, I actually doubled that up. So I'm using a light blue. I just added some shading to it, and then I put that on top of the black. That is what I will build. I'm just getting my other pieces set up. What's nice with these dies, when you cut your pieces out, there is a score line already there, and you're going to fold those over. Now, here's a tip. You want to do the folding before you do that cutout. See how it just makes it just a little bit easier. You've got more to grab. So there you go. Yeah, don't do what I did. Just say. So I'm just getting all of these score lines ready. I'll come in with my paper creaser just to reinforce those folds. And then this is actually the bottom strip, and you'll see how I use that. And then the one with the curve is actually the one for the top. This will fit once it's constructed on an A2 size standard card base. And then I'm going to show you what I did with mine. So I just came up with something a little different. One of the dies also has a curved edge that cuts out, and then the other side, it has a score line. So I just dug into my scraps, pulled out different shades of blue, and now I'm cutting down the edge of it. But I need all of that extra coming off, because you're going to see, I'm going to layer these together. But I want a lot of dimension. So there's going to be a lot of double foam squares coming in here. So I wasn't quite sure how high this was going to go on that blue panel that I have there in the upper right hand corner. So I'm going to set down some foam squares where the score line is. Okay. And I'm going to set my other piece, making sure that I won't lose anything on it. So you can see I can offset these just a little bit. Not much. I'm going to set my next layer of foam squares down, and then I'm going to set my next piece of cardstock over, making sure that it's either a little crooked or a little offset, again, making it look like waves. Setting some more double-sided foam squares, again, setting this offset, making it crooked so that it's not completely perfect. Of course, I realized I forgot to take off the release paper, so that helps to make them stick, just saying. And now we're going to put that down. Now before I trim it, I'm going to put it on this panel that's going to go in there. So I found this to be a lot easier, to cut one of those panels out and work on that, because then I'm able to take this panel and inset it in the box directly above my hand there. You'll see what I mean. Because trust me, I tried it the other way. It wasn't fun. I'm going to now trim around this panel. The scissors that I'm using are by Fun Stampers Journey. They're called their Grand Pro, and they are extremely sharp and solid. So they are a nice set of scissors if you're looking for a long shear pair. So you can see I can take this now. I know where my lines are. Of course I used black, so it's difficult to see, so I'm a little off, but that's okay. But I can just take that after it's built and set that right down into that box, the bottom part of it. I'm going to real quick add my sentiment because of course I always think of that last, and I'm going to use the Ocean Mist, or no, Blue Lagoon from my Desiree K inks, and I'm just going to stamp that right up at the top saying a happy hello. So once that's in there, now we can start constructing. So when I'm building things like this, I do like to use a strong double-sided tape. So I'm going to put the double-sided tape on one side of the box. And you want to make sure that you're putting it on the side when it's folded over. Yeah. So I like to take the front, that piece that's cut out, and I want those flaps to be on top. So that's why I'll put my double-sided tape on there, because when I fold it over this box here, I have that control as I'm doing that fold. So once all of the pieces are, or the tape is set, I'm going to pull off the release paper, make sure my bend's there. I'm going to keep it flat to set the first end in, making sure it's right on the line, make it secure, and now I'm going to fold up. I'll set the top first, making sure it's even, and then I'll make sure that the sides go down as well. So you can see that the sides may bend a little bit, but once you get them down, it sets into itself. Now remember, for the top, I did forget to use my paper creaser to fold those lines, so I do have a little bit of a curve going on, but that's okay. I'm going to put a thin line of liquid adhesive at the bottom, and I'm going to set the bottom piece in. And what this does is it's a little bit thicker. So if you've set this up a little higher and you see something, you see the bottom of something that you didn't, you can use that piece to hide it. I'm going to set a thin bead of glue at the top as well, and then the same thing. If that's set a little bit lower, you can push that down a little bit, and then it's got the two side flaps so that you can just set that around the corner. And that one was giving me a problem. So we just, thank goodness for the opening, we can put our pressure up in there. And that's our little aquarium box. So I'm going to add some of my droplets by Pretty Pink Posh. Just to add some dimension. I didn't add any of the fish, but think of all the different scenes that you could create with this box die. Now they call it the aquarium box die, but I mean, you could put flowers in there, you could make a garden in there. It could be a really fun shadow box that you could create. So what I did was I have one of those rectangles cut out again, and I'm only going to put liquid adhesive on 3 sides, and I'm going to push that to the back. So what I've done is I've created a pocket. You can use this to put a gift card in there. You can use this to put some money in there, fold it up. You could put a little tiny note in there. You could make an ornament out of this. The possibilities are endless when it comes to that little box. I was having way too much fun. So what I did was I cut a strip of paper. I'm going to make a tag. So I always cut one corner off. I turn it over, flip it onto the other side so that my top is even. I'm going to grab the 2 fish from the stamp set, and I'm using Moonlit Fog And I'm going to do second generation stamping. I didn't want this to be too dark. So using both fish, I'm just going to keep stamping across this. And then I'm going to use the sentiment that says best fishes. So making this tag, again, that tag can sit in the back as well if you didn't want this on a card. So you could make it a tag for a gift that you're making for somebody. I've punched my hole at the top of my tag, and now I'm just going to add a lot of twine, baker's twine that I have, and I'm going to feed that through the hole, and then I'll trim that just to give it some embellishment. I love making long tassels for tags. Sometimes I get carried away with them, but I do like my tags big. I like a lot going on there, and I just wanted some baker's twine on that. So just tighten it up, then I'll come in with my scissors just to trim, give it a little bit of a haircut, and you can see I can set that right in there. Now what the tag also does is it allows it to, if you want to put a gift card in there, you can hide it. It could be that way. So your gift card could actually be attached to the tag. And you'll see what I do is I take a craft knife and I'm going to come up from the corners, go straight across parallel to the bottom, and then angle again towards the bottom corner. Set that piece of cardstock that I have there is the exact size of a gift card, and then it just sits in there, and it's a nice snug fit. So many possibilities when it comes to that aquarium box die. Now again, that does not come with your stamp set of the month. Okay, that's the age of Aquarium, but you do have the ability to get that also. So I do hope you enjoyed the two projects that we created today using the Fun Stamper's Journey Stamp Kit of the Month for July 2019 for Spellbinders. All the products I used, of course, will be listed down below, along with the links to their shop, blog, gallery, for more inspiration on any project that you make, and of course the link to all of their subscriptions that they have available. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those down below as well, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I want to thank everyone for stopping by and spending this little bit of time with me watching my video. If you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe. Make sure you ring the bell because you don't want to miss the next video that's coming out. You never know. I hope everyone's having a great day. I want you to take care, but always remember what's most important. Always be creative.